The ratings for Dynamite were not good this week. I believe they were in the 700,000, 740,000, or something like that, I believe was the ballpark. And then they had their lowest demographic rating, which was a 0.23, 14 to the 49, I believe the demographic. Um, let's what Greg, I know you've watched some episodes and stuff like that. If you had to make one huge change of Dynamite AEW and how it's delivered, what would you do to kind of boost that rating or try to get some traction going with the ratings there?
Man, that's a tough one. To me, it's the style in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
That dictates whether they're going to turn the channel or not. And back when we wrestled, you had to emotionally get the people involved with you.
Mm-hmm.
WWE still does a really good job with that, even with a faster paced match. They get into the personalities. I don't get into the personalities down there when I'm watching that show.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that they say in their interviews, nothing they do in the ring that gets me really excited to wait for the next match or to see what's going to happen next in the ring. They'll stand there and chop each other 10 times looking at each other. Tell a story. Tell a story. Get the people emotionally involved in your personality and your character. And you do that by what we called selling and not dying. You can't just lay there. You sell. You make the people feel that pain that you've got in your shoulder or in your arm or your neck or your leg and slowly come back out of that. That was one thing Vern used to tell us, there's selling and dying, and there's learning how to make a slow comeback and build that thing up. And not to blow my own horn, but that's what everybody told me I probably did best.
Wow. Yeah.
And Bachwinkle, a friend of mine, George Shire, he's a writer and a historian.
I know Roy, yeah.
Yeah. And he'll tell you when he would ask Nick, what is it like working with Greg? And he said, it's a night off. Because a lot of times, as a babyface leading the match is unheard of, but you can control it and get those feeling it and let you run it. What happened?
You froze a little bit, but you're good now.
Did we lose it?
You're good still.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Anyhow, and I'm trying to blow my own horn, but I think that's, I know what I did best and what my limitations were. I wasn't the biggest guy, so I can't go out there and just pound guys. I got to out wrestle them. And then when they get me, I got to, sell what they're doing. But not dying and not let people know that they can eat me up. You come out of it, boom, boom, a nice deal. And somebody pull your trunks or something or your hair and they get you back in that hole. People go, oh, son of a bee, That's me. And I see more of it recently through the WWE. I don't see much of that with AEW. I hardly see any of it. I mean, who's the toughest guy? It cares.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you want to tell a story. You want to get the people into the match, into the personality.
Absolutely.
And if you can't do that, how are you going to hold them? If your ratings start going down, you're doing something wrong.
Absolutely. And I agree. I completely agree with you, Greg, because, in Magnum, I'll shift to you here too, but we talked about Ospreay in that match. I got excited because when he was the opening match, I was like, oh, maybe the fact that he's in the opening match, it means that we'll get to hear him talk later on or hear more from him later on in the night. We didn't get any of that. We didn't get nothing. And it was just more matches, little touch of story stuff, but very, very little. Magnum, what would you do? What would be your big component?
It's the stylization is the stylization. The matches could always be tweaked, and sometimes they have really good ones. Sometimes they have, oh my goodness, why they do that. But is the bigger picture is the overall programming and getting the really getting the squeeze out of what they're putting their money in. They don't know how to make somebody a star. They don't know how to feature throughout a program and point towards something coming to 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 get that anticipation up. It's because the personalities, all the things Greg's saying are absolutely correct. But even with that, without being able to put things in the right sequence at the right time in a show and point to it and set somebody up for, it's like setting somebody up for a hot tag. If you don't set the stage right when they get it, when they get out there, it doesn't, they don't get the full burst of what all that should be. And for an interview or an angle or something that's coming up in the show, not to be set up right by the announcers and things that you do, like, to Greg's point, and the WWE could write a master class on, what, taking something from backstage to in the ring to okay, and it also something else plays along 3/4 of the way through the show involving the same thing. You can follow that bouncing along, that bouncing ball throughout the whole piece, and when it picks back up, you remember exactly why you were interested and intrigued about it over here, and that takes some understanding of television programming, and I think that we can't all be the masters of everything. I think Tony is a genius on a host of levels because he does a lot of things successful besides just being the main man in AEW. So he's got all kinds of skill sets. But that said, you know the greatest leaders know how to get people around them and fill in the gaps. Because to your point, if those ratings point to we're not we've just signed $24 million worth of talent and a couple people that we brought in, and the needle should be going whoop, moving over here, and even for those people, I feel bad because they got to feel like, man, I'm here, and this thing is really just not happening. Almost like when I first came to Crockett Promotions, and Dusty and I were sitting in a big old building that would seat about 8,000 people, and there was about 1,500 in the building, and we were sitting up at the top watching the matches. And I scratched my head. I said, Bud, we got to do something about this. And we did, and we got on the superstation, and things exploded. But again, if it's not working the way you're doing it, that's the definition of insanity, to continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. No matter how much money you've got, you have. I would say, I don't know who he would ask, but I would start with the guys that had been part of successful things, like the Chris Jerichos and Tony Schiavone's and those guys, and get them to be open and honest. And it's not pointing a finger. It's not, well, you just don't know what the flip you're doing. It is, well, maybe, we need to strengthen our team here and do some things to, allow us to get some continuity and figure out how we're going to feature people and get people, more invested in these characters. And that would be a great conversation, a great starting point, because it isn't like they don't have the juice, but they're not getting the squeeze out of where they're pouring the juice. Yeah. And so I see that's the systemic problem in the whole thing. And guys can sit back at armchair quarterback it, and from Eric Bischoff to ourselves sitting here doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But until that changes, they're going to have this same struggle, and they're going to have their big wins when they go to Wembley Stadium and when they do certain things that they've already got in their wheelhouse and they know how to do. But to get that needle to start getting 1 million plus watchers instead of where they're at, that's you got an educated audience, and if you're not entertaining them today, they're gone.
They're gone. They're gone. It's really well said, Magnum. And I think both of your guys, the minds you guys have for it, it's just like, boom, you guys, I mean, Tony Khan should get you both on the horn, I think. And you guys would right the ship. You'd right the ship for sure.
Well, it'd be quite a chore. I mean, it'd be a lot of, you wouldn't have to start over, but you have to change things. and some of the people there wouldn't like the changes,
Yeah. I
especially
agree.
talent wise. You
Mhm.
know, to me, you don't have enough veterans that they'll listen to. And as they go along, they all think they know what's best and they do it. And you have to have somebody in charge that says, hey, Dominic, this is the way you're going to do it tonight.
Right.
And TA is going to do this. And that's the way it has to be. They
But it
let
goes
them,
back to leadership. All the things you're talking
right.
about are the soldiers. It
Yeah.
all comes back to leadership. It all comes back when you walk in a building and being able to, you know, look up on a board and know where you're at, what you're doing tonight, yeah, we may have our time to work on our thing at X time or whatever, but it's all about organization and about, you know, having a plan. And yeah, you can modify the plan at, you know, at some point in time. You call an audible, but that should be the exception and not the rule. And I feel like they work in a very knee-jerk reactionist type environment. And so to fix things without structure is difficult. And someone being accepting of being cognizant of that without taking it as being that you're not capable is just constructive advice. You know, if you want to get those ratings up, then, you know, obviously this isn't working the way we're doing it. So let's find another way that we can do it and utilize these same people and all these very talented, passionate people and give them a chance to really shine.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And that talent needs that direction.
Yeah.
You can't let the talent run the program.
Right, and I think it's the what you were saying, Magnum. It's the leadership and being able to be aware of where your strengths, where your weaknesses are, and then delegating it to the right appropriate parties that can really enhance your product, build it up, tell that kind of story. I mean, you guys mentioned it being a television product and having that television mindset of it all. That Jennifer Pepperman, who got brought in, she not only worked with WWE, but she worked on soap operas too. And like I think about how soap operas get structured sometimes where you would think you would see an intro of two characters that have an interaction or scene together. Then later on, throughout that show, you see them back. They're back into it and they're back weaved into the story and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, people always make that comparison of soap operas and pro wrestling together, but
It's totally what it is. So,
yeah,
you know, so it is some way, you know, having the big boy decision to have that conversation. And you look at the guys, you know, they had Arn Anderson there. They've got Dustin Rhodes there. You know, they've got Billy Gunn there. They've got guys that have been part of as big of successful things as you could ever be part of. And it would just blow my mind to see Dustin show up at WrestleMania and swerve everybody. That would be the coolest flipping thing ever.
how about that?
I almost forgot. Yeah.
You just planted the seed.
There we go. You're getting everybody's hopes up now, Magnum. That's what's
Yeah.
gonna